All right. Hello, everyone. I am Franz from Skyline, and we run the National Cyber League. Today is NCL 101, and we're here to tell you everything that you need to know about NCL. And with me today, we have some members from our Players Committee. For those of you who are not aware, the Players Committee, they're a group of NCL alums who help support the NCL community. So they're here to be a resource for you all, help guide all those learners out there. And you'll see them on some of the webinars and live streams that we do, as well as on Discord. And they're just here to help you out. So with me, we've got Cyber Panda. Want to say hello?
Hey everyone, my name is Cyber Panda. That's my Discord moniker. Currently working in the threat intel space. Been in cyber for about 3 years. Very funny enough, I didn't actually come from. I'm not an NCL alum, but I heard about what the awesome things that NCL does. I kind of came from more of a non-traditional background, so I was a history major in college, but found out what NCL does and realized that I really would have loved to do NCL in college had I known it existed. So this is kind of my way to try and give back to that.
All right, cool. Thanks for being here. It's exciting to hear the non-traditional background as well. It's we love hearing all the different ways that people get into cybersecurity. So that's cool. And we also have City.
Hi, that's me. Discord should be that as well. It might have some stuff on the end. I think I was being silly with people at one point. I'm computer science major, still in school. I played in the NCL like 11 times and decided it was enough. So I want to give on some of that knowledge rather than just sit here and compete over and over again.
11 times. Were you doing it all the way back in high school too?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. Cool. And we also have Solar Fox Red.
Hey everybody. Nice to meet all you guys. I started the NCL back in 2019. I've competed several times throughout the years, and now I am on the Players Committee, working blue team as a security analyst.
All right, very cool. And last but not least, we have Eric.
Hey everybody, I'm Eric, also known as Eric. That's also my handle name. Good to see everybody. I've actually never played NCL. I'm a coach, so if anybody is a coach out there, I'm happy. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. And I see a few folks saying they're from Chicago. That's also where I'm at right now.
All right, very cool. And for those of you who are joining, it looks like we've got people from all over the U.S. here. So let me go through here. What we got: Ohio, Baltimore, South Dakota, Chicago, Colorado, North Carolina, Missouri. Thank you all for joining us today. Let us know in the chat if this is your first time playing NCL or if you're a returning player. And really, this session is to get you up to speed on everything that you need to know to be successful within the NCL Games. If you have any questions at all, go ahead, ask them in the chat throughout this session. I'm going to do a quick overview on what to expect for NCL, and then we're going to circle back and I'm going to kind of moderate and have the members of the Players Committee here answer all of your questions. So make sure that you're asking those in the chat. All right. Now, with that being said, let's start with a quick overview of the season dates. So we are currently in September, right? So the gymnasium is already open. It stays open all the way to the end of the season, even after the team game. So what's really cool is that after the games, you can actually go back into the gymnasium and do additional practice. So if you didn't have the chance to go through the entire gymnasium before the games, you go through some of the challenges in the games and you want to continue developing your skills. Maybe there's a topic in there that you wish you had more practice with. That's where the gymnasium is extremely helpful. So within the gymnasium, we've got guided tutorials, both written, and a good number of them have video tutorials. We're recording even more video tutorials this season. So definitely check that out if you haven't done so yet. Coming up as our first kind of actual event is the practice game. That's a week long, October 14th through the 20th. And that's a whole week long where we have some past challenges without any guides to have you kind of see what it's like to participate in this exercise without any guides, any of the solutions. However, you can actually still work with your peers in the practice game. In the individual game, October 25th through 27th, that is a weekend-long event, and it is a individual event. So make sure that when you play in the individual game, you're doing so as a solo effort. After the individual game, you can go talk to your friends, figure out how you solve different challenges. We'll also have our own debrief on the NCL Discord if you would like to join that as well. But it's really important that in the individual game, you keep it an individual effort. Now, to play and compete with your friends, that's what the team game is for. So November 8th through the 10th, that's a weekend-long event. You can form teams of up to 7. And very similar to the individual game, you'll have the same different topics, but a new set of challenges. And we always find that in the survey results, people have the most fun when they play in the team game because it's just more fun to do things together. So make sure that you don't miss out on that. You do not need a team right away within NCL. So you can actually set up your team all the way up until the day before the team game. So don't forget to do that, because if you don't set up your team for the team game, you're going to have to do it by yourself. All right. And here are the topics within NCL. So we cover a wide range of different skills within cybersecurity. The really cool thing about NCL is that you get the large variety, and you can do them in any order that you want. So if you're coming in as a beginner, you might want to just go and take a look at all the different topics and figure out what you're interested in. So you can jump back and forth between them. Or if you know specifically that you want to do, you want a career as being like a SOC analyst, for example, you might specialize and choose certain topics to really double down on, put most of your energy and effort in, and then look at the other topics afterwards. So real quick, open source intelligence, cryptography, password cracking, log analysis, scanning, enumeration exploitation, network traffic analysis, forensics, and web application security. So definitely, get a good understanding of those different topics there. If you want more information about those topics, I would highly recommend that you, number one, check out the gym. You can actually see the different challenges there. But we also have a guide that is available on the resources page on the nationalcyberleague.org website. So if you want to learn a little bit more, get a little bit more guidance, check out that guide. All right. And something else that I want to make sure that we highlight, because a lot of players don't realize that at the end of the games, you will get something called a scouting report. So this is a PDF document that highlights your performance within the game. And this is a really useful tool when you go and start applying for jobs. So this will highlight, here's the different topics that were covered, and you can see the different specific tasks that you perform. So anything from analyzing a web server access logs to analyzing an IDS log for indicators of compromise. It's really nice to have this document, because when you're going and applying for jobs, inevitably you're going to get the question from an employer, hey, what do you know, if you're applying to be a SOC analyst, what do you know about log analysis, for example? And if you can talk about how you actually went through and solved a challenge, and you go through like what tools did you use, your steps, the different challenges that you faced, and how you overcame those challenges, that's going to be what really sets you apart and helps you get that job. And so this PDF document is a really good reference. It's also evidence that you actually did it, but it's really important to also talk about that experience when you go into that interview. And a couple of different resources for you to take a look at to help you prepare. I already mentioned the gym. We also have webinars like this one that you're watching right now. So if you're already watching this, you've gotten a heads up there. And the last one is the Trove. So we have written guides, tutorials. These are embedded directly within the gym, but you can also go and just browse the Trove like independently and go through the different guides that we have there. So all of these resources. There are links to those in the resources section on the NCL website. That's going to be the easiest way for you to go and take advantage of those resources. And a couple of final tips before we move on to all of your questions. Number one, make sure you focus on setting your own personal goals. So a lot of times, especially beginners, they kind of come in and then they're like, well, I want to get to the top of the leaderboard. That's a really good ambition. When you're starting off as a beginner, you might want to set a personal goal that doesn't have you comparing to other people. There are thousands of players who do the NCL. It can get very competitive, especially at the top of the leaderboard. So if you're coming in as a beginner, maybe you set a personal goal where you say, hey, I want to solve one question from each category. Or maybe it's, I want to solve, half of the points in a specific category. That will give you a metric that you can use for your own success that you have a lot more control over, because you don't have any control over how other people are doing. And if you set a goal that's based on comparison, then it could be more difficult for you to feel like you're achieving something in the game. The next piece of advice is focus on scoring points. So for those of you who do not know how the ranking works, it is focused, number one, on who has the most points. And then if there's a tie on points, then the tiebreaker goes to whoever has a higher accuracy. And then if there's a tie on accuracy, then it is whoever made their last correct submission first. Because accuracy is only used as a tiebreaker, you want to focus on scoring those points. So if you find that you're kind of stuck between a couple options, you might want to make some educated guesses, right? It's better to potentially take a miss on your accuracy and then actually end up getting those points if you are able to narrow it down to one of a few options. And that way you can score those points, and that will leapfrog you ahead a lot better than kind of over focusing on the accuracy, taking more time, and then you solve fewer questions and you have fewer points, and therefore you're lower on the ranking. Third piece of advice, keep good notes. It's really helpful to take notes so you can review and reflect after the games. One of the big things that you want to take away from the games is to learn something new. At the end of the day, cybersecurity, it's a constantly changing field. It's going to be impossible to know every single thing at all times. And so the best thing that you can do out of this competition, more than just your score, is actually learning something new. It's all about learning by doing, and having those notes will help you kind of reflect and figure out, hey, was there a better approach that you could have taken? Could you have done something more efficiently? And that's all part of your reflection that you can do after the games. And then the last piece of advice, make sure you take some breaks, because we get a lot of players who are super intense about the games and they completely forget that you need to go to sleep and you need some food and you got to take some showers. So a lot of people, can easily get laser focused on trying to solve a question, and you kind of get stuck. And sometimes just a little bit of break will help you get unstuck. So take care of yourself and make sure you, take those breaks and get a chance to reset. So that is my quick 10-minute overview of everything there. We are going to switch over to questions now. So all of those questions that you all posted in the chat, I'm going to start going through them, and we'll start answering them. While I am digging through the chat right now, does anyone from the Players Committee have any advice that they want to add to give to new players, especially?
Please take breaks. Please. Coming from experience, I remember last round I played, actually, I think I sat on one problem for 3 hours straight. Went to get food and on the walk across campus. Ted worked it out. It's surprising how much not looking at the thing you're working on will get you.
One of the things I'd like to add, you already referenced, Franz, is the importance of note taking. Not only is it important just to have the information readily available to you as you're navigating through the NCL competition, but also, it helps with other skills that you may not be thinking about at the time, like documentation, how you structure some of the things that you're working on. That is a skill set that most people kind of overlook. And being able to have maybe not neat at first, but a neat, clean reference material, at least something that's legible to you that you can go and reference to while navigating through NCL, can be beneficial long term in your career, even after this competition and moving on to more roles that you might find interesting in the future. So I think that's something that's really important, whether you're using Notion, Obsidian, just Notepad, whatever you personally like. I think that's something that you should really value and pay attention to.
I think the big thing is, find out what area of cyber you like. And I mean, I think if you're really trying to compete, find out what you're like and go ham, get really good at that. That's kind of what you end up, because, like, I know that we're all competing within kind of NCL, but when you want to start going to look for a job, just got to remember that no one is hiring and no one's really expecting someone to be an expert at everything. But so you're inevitably going to have to kind of pick those one or two topics that you like. So use NCL to figure out, okay, I'm more of a red team person, or I'm more of a blue team person, or even within blue team there's so many different types of things that you can do within blue team. So figure out what maybe one aspect of blue team you like better than another. I think this is a really, really good place to kind of explore that curiosity and really take it to the next level.
Eric, any other advice that you'd give?
Yeah, just I think in general, just have fun. If you're a competitive person, you probably like NCL, right? If you're not a competitive person, you can think of it as a game or like a puzzle to go through, just to get you motivated to do it. But yeah.
All right, great. Let me go through some of the questions that we have. I've got this question here from Melissa. How do teams go? I'm never working with a team because I'm still a beginner and I'm not as well as others. Who wants to answer this one?
Please me.
Okay, go for it.
So I want to address one thing that was said in this statement, and that is that I'm not as well as others. I don't believe that's true. I think that everyone brings their own unique experience to the NCL. I think that the main reason that we're doing this is so that we can improve, we can learn to collaborate, and imposter syndrome is something that affects all of us, including myself. So, Melissa, I think that you are great and you're going to do great. One of the ways that I would go about making teams is to, one, do a self-assessment on what you feel you may bring. Based on what you said, I don't think you feel that you bring much, but I can tell you that's not true. You bring a lot to the table. We just have to identify what that is and then utilize the resources that we have. We have a Discord, you have LinkedIn, you have a boatload of people in this webinar right now that are willing to team up or may even feel the same as you do. And great things can come from that. So I'd utilize your network and utilize the people that are available to you and those resources and step outside your comfort zone. All right. We're not here to take the crown. We're just here to learn. So don't feel bad about that.
And Jamari just mentioned the Discord. So I just posted the link to the Discord in the chat here. For those of you who are not part of the Discord, highly recommend you joining it, especially if you're looking for a team. There is a dedicated channel in the Discord to find other people to create teams. So if you are, maybe you're like, you're just participating solo, you don't have other people from your school who are participating, it's a great way to go and find other people who can join your team. And additionally, I mentioned before about a debrief. So at the end of the NCL Games, immediately afterwards, we have a debrief on Discord where we have all the different challenges. And us as the game creators, we will actually kind of talk through how we saw how we made our official solution to some of those questions. But then a lot of players also share the different ways that they solve the challenges, because there's more than one way to solve these different challenges. So highly recommend that you take a look there, because that's it's all part of the learning process. So being able to have that as a resource is going to be extremely helpful. And another thing I would add for the teams, if you are kind of uncertain about your skills, some way that you can also help with your team is be there to help validate and confirm the different answers, because what we see is the most disciplined teams who they have someone solve the question and then at least one other person verify that that is the correct answer. They are more likely to be able to get high accuracy and solve all the different challenges. And so you could kind of shadow around and having someone solve the question, they have notes on how they solved it. You can kind of follow those notes and you can see, hey, did they miss something? Was there a mistake that they might have made? You can help verify the answer and help your team out that way as well. Does anyone else have anything to add about advice for teams? No? All right. I'm seeing a few logistical questions in the chat, so I'm going to go and kind of do rapid fire, knock these out as quickly as possible. So Logan is asking, are all of the topics in the gymnasium? Yes, all the topics are in the gymnasium, but keep in mind that the gymnasium is just practice. It's not going to be a one-to-one for the challenges in the game. So our philosophy is that the topics in the gymnasium will really kind of help you primarily prepare for like the easy and some of the medium level challenges in the actual game. But don't expect that the hard challenges in the actual games will be reflected directly in the gym. A big thing that we're trying to teach people is doing a lot of critical thinking and discovering how to solve problems on the fly. So it's not meant to be a direct one-to-one in terms of all of the challenges. It's meant to be kind of a starting point for you, and it will cover all the topics. I have a question for whether high school students will get a scouting report. Yes, high school students will get a scouting report. During the week, is there a time limit, and how's that set up? Time questions. I assume that this is referring to the different games. So for all of the games, the practice, the individual, and the team, you've got the start time and the end time, and there's no limitation between. So there's no time limit for each question. You don't have like, hey, you only got like 4 hours within that window. You get the entire time frame. So you can start working on it at the beginning, come back the next day, take a huge break, whatever you like to do. The start and end time is that's when you can do it. So no limitations within that window. Another question for, are high school students ranked separately? Yes, we do have a high school leaderboard. I saw on the dashboard, I'm grouped into the standard bracket. What exactly does that mean? So during registration, we allow players to classify themselves based on whether they consider themselves like a standard student or an experienced student. We do this because we have a lot of people who are go like a little bit like further into their education. Either they are doing an advanced degree like a master's or a PhD, or maybe they've worked in the industry for a while and they're coming back to get their degree. And to help keep some fairness, we try to keep some separation there to distinguish between kind of the students who have the traditional amount of experience that we would expect from a new student, from people who might already have a lot of existing experience because they might have worked in the industry or because they're going for a more advanced degree. All right. And next up on here, Brandon's asking, what guidance do you have for me? I've got an associate's in cybersecurity insurance, graduated in May 23, and I still haven't found a job yet. Jamari, maybe this goes to you. I mean, it sounds like you've graduated, you've done NCL, you're working in the industry now. What would you recommend?
Well, it's funny because I was eyeing this question, and I went through a very similar path to him. I also have an associate's in cybersecurity. I went further to obtain my bachelor's, but I don't really think it's necessary to get your foot in the door. I think that one of the things that you should consider is figuring out what specifically you want to do. I mean, there's some context missing from this question. Maybe if we had a little more context, it'd be a little bit more of a simple answer. Well, not simple, but straightforward answer. I think it starts with deciding what you want to do. Do you want to go into red teaming? Do you want to go into blue teaming? What experience do you currently have? Are you doing any projects? What are you doing to make yourself stand out in the workspace, right? I think this is going to be my answer for probably a lot of things, because this is stuff that I had to do personally. It's just taking that self-assessment, seeing what I bring to the table, and trying to come up with a game plan on how to knock down these current objectives. So your objectives being, how do I find a job? Maybe we can start with IT, help desk. Maybe we can build up our experience. It all depends on where we are right now. So I'm not sure if that really helps, but for me personally, when I was going through my associates, I was working help desk. I was doing a bunch of different types of cybersecurity projects, and I was connected on LinkedIn and going to conferences. I mean, not a lot of people do that, but if that's how you want to get the opportunity, it's not going to just come to you. You have to, get outside your comfort zone and try new things. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, adding on to what Jamari was saying, I mean, I think really the most important thing you can do is show what you bring to the table for any companies that you're interviewing for. Because to be honest, there's quite a bit of people who have that bachelor's or associates in cybersecurity. And so try to put yourself in the perspective of a hiring manager. If you kind of see everyone has the same credentials, it does make it a little harder for them to pick one person over another. So I think NCL is a really, really good way of demonstrating, hey, not only am I just doing my cybersecurity curriculum, that's also like a separate issue, because cybersecurity curriculums aren't necessarily standardized across schools. And so it's difficult to say, hey, this is a better school or a worse school. But like stuff like NCL, go do other projects. There's a whole bunch of paths for, like, if you want to get into like red team stuff, or if you want to get into SOC stuff. There's like lower cost things that you can do there. And yeah, I mean, it's great if you end up doing those and getting whatever certification is associated with those. But even if you're in the process of doing those, or even if you start them and don't really finish them, the really important thing is that you're able to talk about what you did in the process of taking those classes. So, maybe you start a SOC class and, to be honest, doesn't really interest you, but now maybe like during the interview process, you're able to talk about maybe setting up a home environment, or at least you have a high level understanding of maybe how to deploy certain security solutions and where you might want to deploy them on a network and for whatever reason.
And to add to that, I'm sorry, I just thought about it. I see a lot of things in the chat about like certifications. If that's the route that you want to go, I will say that certifications are not the end all be all, right? We're the main thing that we want to pull from those certifications is experience. So I would say if you do want to go a certification route, I would pair a project or two with each certification. So let's say you're going for a Security Plus, maybe try looking up a few different projects that you can complete that relate to the Security Plus. So once you complete it, you have that on a resume. You can go and sit in an interview and talk about, hey, not only do I have the Security Plus, but I also did X, Y, and Z. You have the hands-on experience to pair that with the certification instead of just doing the cert route. You have a lot more behind you aside from just a piece of paper, in a sense.
And one piece of advice I give to everyone who they're looking for their first job, at the end of the day, your number one goal is just getting your foot in the door. So I have this phrase I say, you want to convert yourself from a piece of paper into a person, right? So a lot of times, if you're just going through job boards like Indeed or LinkedIn, and you're just like hitting like the apply button, you're just a PDF in someone's queue. And they don't know you as a person from that PDF. So you want to find as many opportunities as possible to actually get someone to give you more time and more consideration. And so it's difficult, but like, yeah, going through job boards, just like it's just a numbers game. So I highly recommend, as much as it's possible for you, to go and try to connect to people in person at like conferences and events, even like career fairs. Those like really help, because you're getting someone's time of day. And just for some context, like when we put up a job for a security role, we might get 300-400 applicants. It's really overwhelming, right? And so like you're going to be one of those 300 or 400, and we're not even that big of a company. So like, you know, if you apply to a bigger company, they might be looking like at 1,000 or plus. So yeah, it's like, unfortunately, like job boards, it's going to be just a numbers game and a little bit of luck. And so if you are running into difficulties with applying for jobs and you're primarily using job boards, I'd recommend, you know, at least like considering what type of local meetups, conferences there are. If there's like local ISACA chapters, you can go and try to network with people there. And there's a good chance that there's some people who are working at companies that are hiring at those types of meetups. And as well, if you're going to go down the job board route, try to specifically find smaller companies, especially like local, like smaller local companies. There are a lot of like small cybersecurity or IT services and consulting businesses that might be in your local area, where like, because no one's ever heard of them, they don't get any applicants. And if you can find them and you can apply there, you have better odds. So that's another thing to consider as well. All right. More logistical questions. Let's see. Kathleen's asking, if we want a government position, we participate but score poorly. Has anyone heard of participation actually hurting them in the hiring process? Can employers look you up even if you don't volunteer scorecard at job application? So you are in control of your data within NCL. So you will get a copy of your scouting report. Employers there is not a database that they can search your name and find your scouting report. You have to explicitly go and give it to them. Even if you, during the registration process, you indicate that you're interested in hearing about career opportunities, employers are not getting your scouting report. They're getting added to, they're getting the ability to kind of like be able to connect with you through our recruiting events and webinars like this. So they're not actually getting your performance data. If you are concerned about your performance being viewed negatively during the application process, you can just leave off your specific ranking or specific score when you are applying for the job. So a lot of times I recommend, when people put their resume together, don't put your ranking unless it's like really good, right? Don't put your ranking within NCL. Put down that you participated in NCL, and then treat it like job experience, like not an achievement. Say, you know, player in the National Cyber League, and then talk about what you did as you participated in NCL as if it were job experience, because the idea is that you're doing real world stuff. And so if you analyze log files, find indicators of compromise, like write that as if it's like a description of what you did on the job. That will go a long way to kind of demonstrating what you got out of the competition and what you have to offer to the employer, more than the score. So I would recommend describing an NCL experience in that way as well. What else we have here? Are all of the games going to take place on the website? Yes, they're all going to be on the Cyber Skyline platform.
Franz, I can hop in. So I see a question about, or I see quite a few questions about different projects that people want to do. It's really hard to give a general answer. But to be honest, my experience just kind of looking at new candidates, etc., people who are interviewing for companies, really doing anything is better than not doing anything. So NCL is a really good start. Other than that, it really depends on what your specific interests are. So if you want to do red teaming stuff, go start actually getting some experience with pen testing. There's some orgs like TCM Security that make really affordable pen testing courses You can get the certs if you want. If that's out of your price range, like that's fine too. There's Hack the Box, there's Try Hack Me. If you want to go more like the security engineering route, there's, you can go create your own tools, write your own brute forcer, show that, like, yeah, if you write your own brute force script, and then you can continually iterate on that, post it on your GitHub. Now that's something to have there, which is good. If you want to go the blue team route, I want to give a shout out to, there's a company called Anti-Siphon Training, I think. They have some essentially pay what you can courses. So you honestly don't even, there are like free options on there if you can't afford it. And just go through that course. There's labs associated with that as well. So really just anything that you can demonstrate beyond your degree that you're going for is already going to be a leg up when you're going through those application processes.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jamari.
I just wanted to add real quick, like the amount of free resources and information that is out there is almost unfathomable. Like you can find so many different things just by searching cybersecurity projects on YouTube. Like there's no such thing as the perfect project that's going to get you the ideal job that you're looking for. And also I want to address it. I know the ultimate goal is to find employment in cybersecurity, but we also need kind of a mind shift change, right? The whole purpose of doing the projects and gaining the experience is to be able to really know the material so you can speak to it in an interview, right? So if your goal is to get a job, focus on the core concepts that you're learning while doing the project. And then that way you can articulate it better when you're going over it in an interview. And that makes you stand out more because you seem more like, well, you don't seem like you do know more about what you're doing because you have the hands-on experience to back it up. So that's the only thing I'll address on that.
I was going to say, if you are a student, there are a lot of other competitions for students, both on the red team, blue teams. So, try to participate, create a team. A lot of it is virtual, so you don't have to travel to be there. And then related to what we've been talking about, someone was asking how to know what they're interested in. There's a website called trycyber.us. You can try to go there, and then they have different little, I would say, mini challenges, and you can kind of see what each work role is like, and you can pick what you like best.
I think when, sorry, City. I think when I started, was just really, really intimidated by the number of things that were out there. And then, my advice is kind of just pick one and jump in. Worst comes to worst, you find out that you don't really like that, then you've already learned that compared to where you were before. And also, some things that you're doing for other orgs that you might not necessarily think are cyber related might come in handy down the line. So, I did some coding projects while in college, just kind of on a whim, thought I was going to go a different career path. And then turns out when I wanted to pivot into cybersecurity, all of a sudden being able to talk about some of those coding projects that I did, even though they weren't the best written code, but being able to talk about those kinds of things or even demonstrate that I knew how to at least write some scripts in Python definitely gave me a leg up during the interview process.
Make sure that when you do a project, it's something you're passionate about to some degree as well. I've done projects before where I was just doing it for the sake of, I think this would look nice in a resume, and burned out. But I feel like I learned more and really resonated more with projects I did. And even in field, weird stuff. I tore apart Among Us one time just because I wanted to see how it worked. Or, if you're into that sort of thing, go ahead and do it. You're going to learn something.
Yeah.
And if
sorry.
nothing else, having computer science knowledge is going to help you build things for your cybersecurity career.
Yeah. I think one thing that City said that really resonates with me, at the end of the day, the thing that will take you far in NCL and far into your cyber career, I would argue one of, if not the most defining factor, is literally how much passion you have for this. Because if you end up realizing that you don't really like cyber, one, that's totally okay. There's so many other careers out there. But two, just realize like you are competing against people who live and breathe this stuff, and people who are just really, really like this and will do this on their personal time. And it's not to discourage you guys from like, pursuing this area path or whatever, but truly the difference that I've seen in like new analysts, because everyone kind of comes in with like the same amount of knowledge. The difference between people who do really, really well and people who just kind of settle really is that passion for cybersecurity.
Cool. And I guess I can give you another follow-up here then, since this is relevant for you. Any advice for people transitioning from other non-related fields into cybersecurity?
Yeah. Really figure out, again, understand that when you're trying to get hired for a job, it really is a two-way transaction. The employer is giving you a job, but the employer also wants something out of you, or you're going to bring something to this organization. So really hone in on what you bring to that role, even if it isn't necessarily the hard skills or the most technical, because depending on the organization, depending on the type of role that you're interviewing for, sometimes, or to be honest, most of the times, those hard skills can be taught. But there's other skills. Maybe if you go into like a SOC role, programming knowledge isn't necessarily like needed. But if you're transitioning from a non-related field, but maybe you do have some coding skills, that might be able to give you a leg up over some of the other candidates. And also, like others have said before, networking is super, super important. I've gotten rejected from 2 or 3 companies when I started. Straight up, the recruiters told me that I wasn't technical enough because my degree was in history, even though I had a minor in cyber. And it definitely wasn't easy to get into that kind of position, but I got really lucky. And the TA for one of my classes actually sent me a referral, and that was how I got my first step in. So in my experience, people within cyber are generally really, really welcoming and really willing to help you. You just kind of have to reach out and ask for that help.
Yeah, I'd also say, take note of any transferable skills that you may have in whatever role that you're in now as you transition into more cybersecurity related fields. I have family members myself who worked in medical and other different types of fields who are interested in cybersecurity. And I had the same conversations with them. It's like, well, cyber is a very diverse field, and there's no perfect person who necessarily fits all these different roles. So for the 5th time I'm saying it, I'll say it again, do that self audit. I'm telling you, it's important, because once you identify some of the key attributes that you bring to a table, you'll be able to apply that no matter what job you're looking for. It's really important. So, yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And next question I have up here is asking for any other places that they can learn more about the challenges. So I guess I'll expand this to any other suggestions on resources to help people prepare and practice.
Outside of the NCL, I guess after you take an overview of the gymnasium and you go through some of the modules that you have, try looking into some of the topics that are explained, and just doing a little bit of research about how they work. Let's say, for example, we're going over password cracking. Do some research on how that works. Do some research on hashes and hashing algorithms. Do some research on the different types of ways to encrypt passwords. I mean, there's no, in my opinion, there's not going to be a perfect resource for everything, but just start getting familiar with some of the vernacular, start getting familiar with some of the concepts, and seeing if maybe you'll be able to apply it more, or maybe if there's a resource on the NCL, for whatever reason doesn't really click with you, see if there's another resource that might help you put 2 and 2 together and apply it to the NCL in other ways. You can get this information ideally anywhere.
Anyone have anything to add to that?
Sorry, was muted. Another thing is, if the no answers only methodologies chat is still floating around, even if you weren't part of that season, I'd still look into people talking about how they solved old problems. When I was first starting, that was a really big resource for me. Was I literally took all those chats, copied them into a Word doc, and just scrolled through and built notes out of what other people had done before. Or if you have like an internal resource at your school where you do write-ups or something like that.
I guess one other thing that following up with what City said that reminded me. To be honest, getting into the field partially is a visibility thing. So, make sure you take good notes. If you are able to, start a GitHub, and that's really good for just being able to throw in your resume, and then you can have your interviewers check it out, right? And sometimes your resume maybe has to be one, maybe a little more pages. You can't list everything that you've done. GitHub's a great place to just dump it, right? If you have some challenges, you did a really interesting challenge and you want to do a write-up, start a blog, throw it on GitHub. You wrote a tool, throw it on GitHub. That's all like a really, really easy way to demonstrate to an interviewer that, hey, I've actually done more stuff than just sit around in a classroom.
Nice. And next question here: what resources do you use to kind of prepare? So, I mean, there is the list of tools on the resources guide on the NCL website. I don't know if any of you all have any suggestions for resources and different tools. I guess we answered resources. What about tools? Any tools that you all find to be very helpful to use during NCL?
Practice installing tools. You're going to find something on GitHub one of these times that's going to be the thing you need. And you're going to need to know how to install it without wasting a ton of time. I know that's not really an answer to the question, but it's something I see people get caught up on fairly often.
I would say for OSINT, not OSINT, sorry, for crypto, like maybe CyberChef. There's a few others. I'm just not remembering them off the top of my head. OSINT, Google, ChatGPT, Wireshark for network traffic analysis, log analysis, I don't know, command line foo, or like even Excel. I've seen people use Excel for those.
Throwing in also CyberChef is really good. And then +1 for Excel. I mean, back when I did more log analysis stuff in my daily life, to be honest, professionals are using Excel. So just being really efficient at learning how to filter in Excel, or sometimes you might need to like visualize some stuff. So if you really wanted to go more advanced, search up how to do pivot tables, how to do certain charts within Excel. But other than that,
And keep it simple with some of these tools. I mean, we're not expecting you to be a complete expert when utilizing some of these tools, but it would be helpful to have a basic understanding of how they work and how to use them. So because I saw a few people like asking question marks about when we were talking about CyberChef. So get curious, look up CyberChef, go on the website, go look at the tool, go see what information you can pull about it, watch a YouTube video. There's other resources out there. Just try to not focus so much on the tool, but just focus on how it works, what it's used for. And when the time is right, you'll know when to use it.
Additionally,
go ahead.
I saw Linux in chat. Knowing your shell commands always useful. I'd say have a scripting language that you're not completely afraid of. Python's popular here. I've seen weird ones though. I think there was somebody in the Discord using like J shell, and it worked for them. So if you have something you're comfortable with, stay with that. Don't feel like you need to go learn a different tool just because it's the normal one.
And one thing I wanted to follow up on, because I saw several people kind of asking about this in the chat, if the usage of AI and things like ChatGPT are allowed. They are. There's actually a change for this season, so you are allowed to use those in the games. I guess the caveat is that like if you are using the AI and it's giving you a bad answer, us on the support ticketing side are not going to be able to help you with that. So just keep that in mind, right? If you're like, well, ChatGPT told me that's the answer, and you open a support ticket about it, we're gonna be like, sorry. So just keep that in mind, because usually what happens is when people they kind of want to contest the answer for a question, and they're like, well, I think this should be accepted. They got to show their work, right? It's like, well, I wrote this script, I did this calculation, like this is why I think this is the answer. If your justification for why you think the answer is that ChatGPT told you, it's not going to work out. So you just keep that in mind, right? You can use it, but another thing I would also recommend is just be very mindful of whether you're using ChatGPT to augment your learning process or bypass the learning process. So like, if you just take the question from the platform and you copy and paste it into ChatGPT and you ask it, what do I do? That's not really helping you learn, right? Like that is kind of having ChatGPT do the thinking for you. And if ChatGPT does end up giving you the answer for it, then you haven't really learned anything from that process. So what I would recommend, some good use cases for ChatGPT might be like, hey, I need to perform X. Can you help write me some Python code, for example, right? Because City was talking about having some scripting skills, right? Well, maybe you aren't, 100% comfortable with scripting, but maybe you can use ChatGPT to augment some of that. Your trade-off here is now you're not actually improving your scripting capabilities, but you at least like you're not bypassing the work of doing the critical thinking of like what you need to do with the data. Or maybe use ChatGPT to like ask you like, hey, how do I filter for this data in Wireshark? And it can help you come up with a Wireshark filter or something like that, or tell you what like flags or arguments you need to use for a program. Those are things that I would recommend you use ChatGPT for. But like, look, I'm not the police. I'm not going to know like what you're doing on your laptop if you use ChatGPT to get you the answers. It's balanced out at the end of the day, because everyone can use ChatGPT, so everyone can also solve those answers those questions if they're solvable by ChatGPT. Just be very mindful of what that means for your learning experience, and if that's what like you're taking away less the more you rely on ChatGPT than having yourself do the critical thinking. Oh, another pitfall I would say to be careful with ChatGPT is that like, if you're asking ChatGPT about something you don't have enough context about, and ChatGPT gives you an answer, you have no way to debug that answer if it becomes incorrect, right? It's like, well, ChatGPT said this, and then you try it and it doesn't work, and you're like, well, now what? So yeah, keep that in mind.
Points were made.
All right. Couple more logistical questions I've been seeing here. So how are experience bracket rankings calculated for individuals and for teams? So the brackets, so I need to clarify to make sure we're all speaking the same language. So you've got the leaderboards. You're going to have the standard leaderboard and the experience leaderboard, right? So that's just going to be, hey, this is how you compare to everyone else within that leaderboard. We have something else called the cyber power rankings, and that basically is a super score of the performance of all of the students from the same school. So for the experience versus standard bracket, For the leaderboards for those two brackets, for individual and for team, it's the same normal points, accuracy, and then timestamp. So that's the kind of cascading order of tiebreakers. Individual and team leaderboards are completely separate. The performance in one does not affect the other. When it comes to the power rankings, all of the stats for the individual players from one school, or sorry, all the stats of the standard players from a school go into their standard power ranking. All the stats from their experienced players from that school go to the experienced power ranking. And then I saw someone also asked here, can a person in the standard bracket be grouped with a person in another higher bracket? Yes. That the whole team, though, will be placed in that experienced bracket, right? So, and it just requires one person to be the experienced bracket to pull the whole team up to that one. So, if you're going to have a team that you want to be in the standard bracket, everyone in that team has to be from the standard bracket. If you have a mixed team, then that will go into the experience bracket. Are we allowed to look up information during the individual game about specific topics such as the Rocky Breach? Yes, you are allowed to use any free online resources during the games. The exception here is that you cannot like straight up ask for help from other people, right? So you can't go on like forums or what have you to like ask people, hey, how do I solve this problem? You have to do it independently. So searches are fine, but no asking a person a question. Do we get a cool LinkedIn badge upon completion? You do get a graphical badge. It's like an image that you could then upload to LinkedIn. You can also take your scouting report and certificate of participation and have those listed as achievements on your LinkedIn. And what happens if we don't finish 100% of the gym activities before the season starts? So before the season starts, that's totally fine because you can access the gym even during the games. So you can, at the end of the day, what happens is I guess you're just slightly less prepared if you don't do all the gym stuff before the season starts. But it's to be expected. Very rarely are people doing 100% of the gym before the first game. A lot of times, unless you've done it for at least a season, you're going through the gym even after the games to continue kind of filling any like gaps in your knowledge. And then final logistical question here, is the team game score an overall reflection of your team's performance only, or is there a scoring of individual players within the team? It is the overall performance of the team. So it's cumulative of everyone's performance. So basically, if one person on your team gets the answer correct, it counts as correct for all of you. So you do not need the team members to be kind of, everyone has to solve the question. As long as one person submits it, you all get credit. All right. And we got a couple minutes left. I'm going to ask the players committee here, are there any topics, any questions that you're seeing that you want me to put up here so we can cover before we wrap up?
I will like to just address something I thought about. I can't find the particular question right now, but like for everybody just starting out, utilize this network. You've just developed an entire community of people who are willing to focus on the same goals as yourself. So utilize this, build your teams, build your connections, build your relationships so that, when an opportunity arises, you'll be able to accomplish those goals and have a great time with the NCL. Don't take your time, don't stress it.
Yeah, join a team if you can. You learn a lot in a team, especially what others do. You think you're doing things one way, somebody else will come in and do things different way, and then you can learn new tools. But a team is, I think, in my opinion, a team is much more fun than individual. It's a bit harder, but you're not by yourself.
Do you have questions ask the Discord. You'd be surprised how how friendly your fellow competitors are for being your competition. At the end of the day, I don't think there's anyone here who doesn't want people to learn, and that's something I think sets NCL apart from other competitions in a lot of ways, especially collegiately.
And Cyberpanda, do you have any final parting thoughts? I think we had everyone else kind of say their last thought before we wrap up for today. Any last thoughts from you?
No, not really. I mean, I think realize NCL is a great thing. I wish I knew about this when I was in college. So, just take advantage of this, have fun, learn as much as you can, build your network, and good luck out there.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We really packed up this hour with tons of questions. So really appreciate everyone for the Players Committee here for answering these questions. And thanks everyone in the chat for your great questions and for joining us for the season of NCL. If you have any other follow-up questions that you have, I think City mentioned it, join the Discord. That's probably the best way to get the answers to your lingering questions. Sorry if we could not answer your question live here today. There were quite a few, but hopefully we can get those answered in the Discord. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up here and enjoy the rest of the season. Thank you, everyone.